Thank you everyone for joining us tonight for this Q&A. We're going to talk about one of the guys, which is Lachelle's first short film. We have the wonderful cast here. So let's start with Ahmad Damani Deshalu.
Okay, you got it right. You got it right on the first try. I'm proud of you. You did your research.
I did research.
Well, hello everybody. I am Ahmad, and I played Deshaun in One of the Guys, and I'm just grateful to be here in this space with everyone.
Awesome. And next we have the wonderful Shakira Henderson. You play Mel.
Yes, hello, Shakira B. Henderson, and I'm so happy to be here with everybody and just to talk about this amazing film. So can't wait.
Nice. And then last but not least, we have Colin Peters, and you play Isaiah in the film.
Thank you very much. Hi, everyone. Colin Peters. I played Isaiah, like you said. I'm excited to be here with the fam again and to talk with y'all today.
Perfect. And of course, Lachelle, who is the filmmaker, Lachelle Kersan, of One of the Guys. And One of the Guys, if you haven't watched it yet, it is available on No Budge on YouTube. But I just want to warn you, we might give away some parts of the story tonight. So hopefully y'all have seen it. But we cover topics of toxic masculinity, consent, complicity, especially when it comes to male-dominated environments like the music industry. So lots of very timely topics as well, just going on in the world. So this is a really, really important film. So again, excited to dive into these topics. So starting with Lachelle, this is kind of just focusing on the industry, the film industry as a whole. What was it like for you? Shout out to you, being a director and a producer and a writer on your own film. Like, what was that like? What was that process?
Terrifying.
Of course.
It was definitely, I think, I produce as a living. So I was always walked into it knowing that I needed to really prepare, but it's hard when it's your first film because you don't necessarily know like what you need. You can do as much research as possible, but there's always going to be something that goes awry. And so I think it was really about balancing my producer brain and my director brain and making sure that they didn't conflict, especially when on set, because the producer in me always wants to make sure that like everybody is taken care of and everything is streamlined. But like when you're directing, you really just don't have that luxury. You really do need to focus on your actors. You need to focus and lock in with your DP and just making sure all of that is good. So I think like relinquishing control was a big one and just trusting the process and that everything would work out.
And it did, and it flowed. And we're so happy that it did. And was this based on a true story for you? Did you find yourself in this process as you were creating this film?
So it's not based on a true story. I get that question a lot, and I think that's a compliment because the fact that someone thinks it could actually happen speaks to like how real the situation is. But essentially, I just kind of cherry picked parts of my life to kind of create the world, to create Mel. I feel like each character is a composite of like multiple different types of people that I've known, but also just like, you know, what these wonderful actors turn those characters into being. There's only so much that I can do as a writer and director. It really becomes theirs once we're rehearsing and on set.
Right. And even looking at the topics, again, very real topics, I touched on this earlier. What made you then want to focus on, you know, boundaries and toxic masculinity and like relationships between men and women, whether platonic or, you know, creatively?
I feel like a lot of the conversations that we have around complicity and consent really need to expand. I think that there's a lot of nuance missing in those conversations, and people tend to look at it as very black and white, and that's really just not how it is. So like if you're not able to assess what's happening in that gray area and where the lines should be drawn within those gray areas, then we're really not actually going to be pushing those conversations forward. And so it was me just kind of trying to think about that broader concept and kind of spin it on its head and show like a different perspective on it.
Right. And now, like, opening up to the cast with these like very heavy topics, there was still again this like high energy and like natural chemistry that was felt between y'all. And I was telling Lachelle this because I had interviewed her for Sheer last summer to talk about this film, and I thought that she knew y'all already, like y'all were friends, and this was like her friends that she casted. So how do you think that natural chemistry just sparked between the cast?
I think Ahmad is
I
frozen
think
on my side.
Ahmad's frozen.
That could have been.
I was like trying to focus, but then I was like, wait.
But from my POV, I think it's a testament to the folks that we didn't get to see in front of the camera. I think it's all of the folks that are involved in production, from Michelle to folks that were just PAs on set, and all of the actors who may not have had a line. I think it was an overall just the community around us, like enabled all of the energy to just sort of flow and for us to just sort of react and vibe off of each other. I truly think it's like a testament to bringing together all the right people. And I felt like this production, not a lot of production had that, but this production like had all of the right folks on set and all in the right places.
Yeah, it's definitely felt as a viewer. Does anyone else want to share a little bit about the experience?
Sorry guys, I keep fucking getting cut off for some reason. What question were we on?
No, I was just asking, although we're glad you're back. We're glad you're back. I was just asking about the kind of natural chemistry amongst the cast, and just with the story, having not known Lachelle, I was shocked to know that y'all didn't know each other prior to this. So I was just curious from your perspective how that felt.
Oh yeah, it's always like I guess you could say like a 50-50 gamble when you go on a set. You know, you never really know what you're walking into, what the energy is gonna be like. But I think literally the first rehearsal is when I met everybody in person for the first time, and it's like as soon as Shakira and Colin walked in the door, we were just like, yo, like the energy, like you just realize, like you just feel like the connection, especially with people who look like yourself and the same cultures as you. It's like it was such a great ensemble, and it's like it did not feel like a 13-hour shoot, like 13-hour days. It was like I swear, like work now when it's like 4 hours, it feels like a fucking eternity, and I'm like, bro.
Right. And having trust, I feel like, right, in Lachelle as a storyteller, I feel like that's part.
I think once we all read the script, we had trust in her, because it's like it speaks for itself. I had great slides for the audition. That's how I even like I knew it was something special even from the audition, and that's rare, you know,
Right.
because most audition slides are horrible. Like, well, it's not almost, but a lot.
Well, that's real. That's real. Now, getting into Mel. So Shakira, you play Mel, who's our protagonist. Very down to earth, very cool. And what I love about Mel is that she really navigates both like the seemingly masculine, seemingly feminine energies with this like ease. And is this something that you relate to in your real life, or do you find that duality kind of challenging? Today you're giving us him.
Yeah, very cute. But I actually really vibe, not even just vibe, but I resonate with that because I'm sorry, I'm just really nervous. I'm just gonna be honest. But masculine and feminine, I like to play with it. As you can see, I'm wearing my cute little dress right now. Got my cute wig on. But as y'all all know, I love my big coats. I love my sweaters, and I just love just real boxy silhouettes and everything. So I definitely play the line. The boxes that Mel was wearing were mine. Like I definitely go in between. So yeah, once I read the script, I felt I knew Mel. That was definitely one of the things. I was like, oh, I want this. I want this. I want this. And then once I met Lachelle and we had the callbacks and everything, I was like, oh my gosh, she's just amazing. Like I want to be a part of this. I want to help bring, this to the forefront. So I was really excited.
Right. And again, like you really played and portrayed this character with ease. So I felt like your passion in that. And I guess kind of kicking it back to you, Lachelle, you know, the film is called One of the Guys, right? So Mel kind of going in between, you know, obviously being a woman, but also really being able to kick it with the dudes that she is friends with and makes music with. How did you come up with that character though? Like how did that character become the focal point of this story and basically what it's named after?
I pull a lot of Mel from my own personal experiences of being like the only girl in a group of guy friends. Like I used to have guy friends where like I would help them pick their outfits out for the club and we all go to the club and like I'm pulling dudes and you pulling women. And like we were just like homies like that. So I think that's where I got a lot of Mel from. But the title One of the Guys really comes from just this idea that like as a woman, you really cannot be one of the guys. Like that's kind of like the whole theme of the story. It's like even if you are a part of those spaces and you're embraced in those spaces, the gender differences make it impossible for you to be fully equal, and you have to acknowledge those differences.
Right, and that brings me to really how the plot begins. So going to Ahmad, you play Deshaun. Now, I don't even know with Deshaun. I think the simplest question, because you right now as Ahmad, very fun, lovable, nice
Thank you.
guy. But Deshaun, how did you approach playing such a, you know, controversial and like conflicted and really like flawed character in a way?
Well, me personally, I think what I was taught and how I grew up, I've always kind of resonated. Not that I'm ill-natured like Deshaun is, but I've always kind of resonated with morally great characters, like Lachelle said earlier. Like I've never read a script and just wanted to play like an evil dude or like just the drug dealer or you know the bully. Like there's more to humans than just black and white. And just two-dimensional characters I was just so done with. I've been there and I've done that. And when I first read the script, you know, I'm thinking, yeah, I could do this. Deshaun, you know, he's enigmatic, you know, he's a people person. I can play that. And then I read the end, I seen the twist, and I'm like, oh man, it was definitely I had to take a step back and think about it, but it's for that reason I wanted to do it because the way that Lachelle wrote the story was so raw, it was so real and organic that I kind of wanted to treat it with the same care because things like these do happen, like unfortunately. And I think with a project like this and a character like Deshaun, you don't want to just I didn't want to just play, you know, like the sexual aggressor. I wanted to have some layers. So it's like when he would interact with Mel, it'd be different than when he would interact with, you know, the groupies or, you know, it's certain layers.
Yeah, do you want to kind of like touch on that a little bit more, like Lachelle with the writing, or even like Ahmad, how you approach that in like your mannerisms? Because I think that is a great point. Because again, we keep kind of like establishing that Mel has this duality, you know, not only her character, but like how people engage with her. So I love that point that you made. If you guys want to elaborate.
Thank you. Lachelle, you got it first, baby.
I think what I'm really trying to say here is like there is this perception that like women who are more masculine are not as vulnerable or susceptible to predatory behavior, and that's not the case. I do want to speak to Ahmad's mannerisms because there are so many things that he did off the cuff that were just so hilarious to me in post. Like there's this scene, the scene where the groupies are leaving like the studio and like he's like looking at their ass and he's like, damn, like they look good. And I'm like, I didn't tell him to do that. He just did that. You know what I mean? And like it's a very different reaction that he had to like Mel. He's asking Mel to like go get the door for him. Like Mel is like his homie for real. And so you can speak more to the mannerisms, but I really appreciated that about Ahmad's performance is that he really colored it and textured it in that way.
Yeah, and just to piggyback off what Lachelle said, I think the reason why I was even comfortable to do that was because she gave us so much creative freedom, and it didn't feel like we were straying too far and being untruthful for our characters. Like, and I just had a great cast. Like, look at these beautiful folks right here. Like, they just supported me all the way. We supported each other. So it's like, if we had a take that wasn't working, it's not like they were like, bro, that was horrible. They were just, you know, we were back for another one, and we all saw the vision. And I think I feel like everybody says that in these things, but I think for this project, like this is a project I'm very proud of, and I'm glad that people are seeing it, you know.
Yeah, definitely. And this is kind of open to the group, but speaking of Deshawn's character, of course, we can all agree that the way this ended and what he did with like the photos and everything, and just obviously the way he speaks of and treats women is bad. But creatively, it was really interesting. Earlier in the film, Mel says that, you know, he's a little manic, you know, in this nonchalant kind of way when she's talking to her sister. And it was kind of brushed off as like, well, that's just his creative process. You know, that's just what he does. And I think that's very common in the music industry, like outside of this film, that we see a lot of excuses like that are made for men in particular. And maybe this is a bit of an obvious question, but curious to hear your thoughts. Why do you think that is? Like, why do you think there's just constant pass after pass, specifically for creative reasons? Like, oh, this is just his process. This is just what he does. The music's good, you know, whatever. Who wants to take this one?
Oh, I'll start. I was just going to say that a lot of times, first of all, men get a pass for being men a lot of times. So that's just a broad umbrella. And then when you focus it down to the music, the term creative genius gets leniency because you're specialized. And then special, and then you're a man. Okay, we got to protect this because another one won't ever come. But, you know, obviously, we know there's dozens of copies. But it's really a male-dominated industry that, like we see within the film, friends giving each other a pass because, oh, you my homie, you didn't even mean it like that. How you couldn't even mean it like that. So if you got one person times that by the whole industry saying, oh, he couldn't mean it like that, he couldn't mean it like that, it just doesn't create a ground for change within, you know, that hive mind thinking. So that's my two cents.
That's very true. Any other?
Like Shakira was saying, I think that I'm talking just in regards to hip hop right now, but just the foundation and the origins of hip hop itself was, you know, it was originated in the South Bronx, which, you know, was a rough area, especially in the 70s. So it's, you already in those times, if you were an artist or you wanted to dabble in hip hop, you had to already be kind of a hyper masculine hood dude. You know what I mean? You couldn't just be, back then, not everybody was just rapping, you know, it's a very predominantly male, you know, it was predominantly black. And I think during those times, those times were filled with so much strife and just so much corruption, so much thing that those stepping stones kind of bled into even now that where all these corporations are owned by men. It's just like, if it's any other way, people are just like confused or perplexed. Like a woman in a male oriented setting, it's like, it's so foreign to people. Like it's 2024, but people like, we all came out of a woman's vagina. And it's like,
Right.
I don't get it. You know, it's like,
Right. Yeah, no, and that's why it's important that we're having these conversations. And again, thank you, Lachelle, for creating this film and bringing this story to light and doing it in such a like thoughtful, delicate way, because this brings me now to Isaiah. And before we come over to you, Colin, first, I kind of want to understand, Lachelle, like your thought process with this character, because, you know, even as we're talking about, you know, the music industry and, you know, sexual misconduct and these kinds of things, it's very much framed in like a cis, you know, heterosexual man with like a cis heterosexual woman, or just a woman in general, and having these advances placed on her and not feeling protected. But here we have Isaiah, who is meant to be a queer friend in this group, and Mel is not entirely protected by him. So how did you kind of navigate like this role of like a gay cis and straight cis man when it comes to protecting women? And also Isaiah made the same excuse about the artisticness, like, oh, it's coming from an artistic place is why Deshawn is like this. So yeah, I'd love to understand how you included this character and what was your thought process behind that?
Yeah, I think with Isaiah, I feel like people like Isaiah are just as harmful as people like Deshawn. And I really wanted to talk about how toxic masculinity can manifest in men regardless of what their sexual preferences are, because it's the framework in which they are conditioned, whether they want to be or not. So unless you are someone who is actively doing the work to unpack that and to check your own biases, and unless you are proactively ensuring that you are keeping, you know, women who are marginalized in a different way than you safe, you're really not going to be as safe for them as you could be.
Right. And that's very true. And I think, again, that's like a part of the conversation that's overlooked. So again, shout out to you for bringing that to the forefront. And Colin, you did an amazing job with the character. Definitely. And I want to ask you, like putting yourself again in Isaiah's shoes, like what do you think caused that undeniable like loyalty to Deshaun, and like how far can neutrality really go in a situation before it's just harmful? Like it's not really helping.
Thank you for that question. Beautiful question. So for the first part, I think it comes back to, at least from my POV, and I know it's more complicated than this, that we all sort of walk around with a mask. And especially within the hip hop creative space, there's a mask that we tend to don and tend to wear. And I feel for a character like Isaiah, that mask is meant to protect some of his his underneath layers, his complexity, his sexuality. And I feel like at the end of the day, it's fear. It's a fear of like, it's selfishness and fear. It's like the fear of what folks would think of him, or what Deshaun's character might think of him, and how he might be portrayed within the space, and letting that influence how he chooses to fully open up to the reality of what's happening in front of him. And I feel like that sort of goes back to your second question, about how far neutrality can go before it become dangerous. I mean, just looking at the landscape of the world, not to get like uber political, but you can look at every corner of the world, or even just right here in our own community, where that neutrality, like Michelle says, that gray area, if not unpacked, it just leaves space for the folks who are the people who are really just trying to fuck the world up, for them to really just move forward, because there isn't, folks aren't necessarily taking the stand on a position and making it clear what they believe in. I feel like allowing that neutrality can be in the Middle East, it could be in your local.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how I just muted myself. It could be in your local community. I don't think it's like it needs to be a situation. I don't think it just lies within a situation of just with your small friend group of something, of it being, ooh, man, I'm getting hot just thinking about this. But yeah, I think it's like the situation, no matter how big or small the situation is, I think it's important to make your opinions clear and to like have a stand, because without that, it just leaves a breeding ground for folks to take advantage of that, or for your friends to just not be accountable for their toxic ways.
Right. And you mentioned like a fear, and like a fear from Isaiah's perspective, but also like a fear that people just in society have when it comes to like taking a stance. What do you think Isaiah was afraid of losing if he ultimately lost one of his best friends?
Yeah. I think, what was that?
By like not saying anything.
Right. Yeah, I think it's just I've been talking about my friends about this as well, but for Isaiah particularly, I think it's we all hold on to like our creative outlet becomes like an identity, and I feel like the fear of losing that outlet to express yourself, like who am I? What am I without this thing? Who am I without these friends? if I'm not within this friend group, what is my value? What is my worth? And I think it's like we're bigger than the things that we do and the people that we associate with. But I feel like that base level fear blocks blocks you from seeing that. And Mel was just in that moment, I feel like the less, like Isaiah would choose Deshaun because of the entanglement. They live together, they make music, and I think Isaiah is blocked by that, of like being empathetic towards Mel, and to like actually seeing the reality and the complexity of Deshaun's character and who he really is.
That's true. So I have one final question. I know we're at time. I think we're looking to have the last 30 minutes focus on viewer questions. So just to wrap up this moderated discussion, Lachelle, how would you, actually not just Lachelle, but to everyone, how would you define a true safe space, particularly for Black women, especially in a creative context? Because I think we're talking a lot about what a safe space is not, or what it hasn't been for a while. So that's like part one. And then part two is, how can men specifically be better agents of change? Because we want to go from having these discussions to actually like changing things and making progress. So first, like defining what that looks like ideally, and then what are some like next action steps, particularly on men's behalf, can be done?
I think awareness is key, especially when it comes to the experiences of Black women. We are tender as much as we are strong. And I think if you're not somebody who has really done the work to unpack how layered the experience of being both female and Black are, you're really not ever going to be a safe space for us. Just like Colin was saying, like men wear masks, Black women have to wear masks as well. And that mask requires us to be in spaces where our humanity is flattened, where our emotions cannot be what they are without being interpreted as anger or a threat or nagging or whatever. Nowadays, when someone says that I'm angry, I'd be like, yeah, bitch, I have a lot to be angry about. Okay. So but like, just in general, I think that awareness is really, really key. And like, it cannot just come in the form of asking Black women to spoon feed everything to you. Like, there's so much information available out there. There's so much reading you can do. There's so many works that you can look up by Black women to like really unpack it. And honestly, in general, I think everyone should be studying the work of a lot of Black women, especially Black feminist women, because we are at the core of every major human rights struggle. Like, a lot of the work that we've done has helped push a lot of things forward. So if you're trying to be inclusive, if you're trying to hold space for us, really start by just listening to us and taking notes and being receptive and understanding when you get pushed back, it's for a reason. Getting defensive is not helpful for anybody. So I think that's a step that men can take, really. Read some bell hooks, preferably something other than All About Love, because
and not Laws of Power, just to go back to
God. Obviously I have feelings about that book too, but yeah, I think just doing that work and then just being very aware. Like, we understand, especially with Black men, you guys go through a lot, but that doesn't mean that you don't have certain gender-based privileges over us. It doesn't mean that you don't also cause harm or have the potential to cause harm. So just being more aware of that would be very helpful.
Wonderful answer. Thank you. Any other?
I was going to say listening was going to be my whole big spiel, so Lachelle took it. But I'm glad that you said it, because you're the criteria that we're talking about all this for. So it's like, but for me personally, I feel like that young Black men especially, we definitely need more role models, and we need more guidance in the youth, especially because there's, in this age of just hyper technology and everything's just so accessible, it's like, I feel like these kids nowadays, not even kids, grown-ups from all ages, even myself sometimes, I get caught up in in negativity and things that are not serving me and not serving others, you know? So it's like, if you better yourself, it's only natural that your people around you will feel better too. And I think a big part of acting is also listening. And I think when I first went to school, teachers kept telling me, you're not listening, you know, and I would just sit there and I'd be stumped. I'd be confused. Like, I am listening to you. I just heard the line. And it's just more to listening than just listening for a response, and just listening to actually hear where the person's coming from. And that's a big thing that I had to learn in life, not even through acting, just in life, because I also used to be a person who, if I felt disrespected for whatever reason, my ego, my pride, regardless if I was wrong, you know, it's about taking accountability and just being a kinder person. You know, I think we all just need to be kinder, especially though Black men, because we're already portrayed and we already go through so much, like Lachelle said, we're already portrayed in a certain type of light, a certain type of stereotype. So I think just as humans, we need to listen to each other more, listen to women more, and just be kinder.
Yes, more listening, more educating. I like that.
Yeah, very much. I think also to jump into it as well, agree with both Lachelle and Ahmad. I think that also having accountability, I think men calling men out is a key factor and could be another key factor in enabling and creating safe spaces for Black women, because it starts with just sort of the mindset of, I like to call it the group chat, like the guys in the group chat. It's like, if we can have these conversations in the group chat before we're out in public, then it enables us to be, like Lachelle said, to be a lot more aware of not only our internal biases as men, but just sort of being more empathetic to everyone around us, including the women in our life, and not outside of just women, just like non-binary and trans folks as well, just understanding the strife that we're all facing and being a lot more empathetic to that. But I feel like it starts with just being a little bit more accountable with each other within the friend group. And I think that could, to be like Ahmad said, we can be our own role models for each other. It's like, if there's one person in the friend group that is able to, like, read The Will to Change by Bell Hooks, or, you know, read this other novel, or like watch this film with me, if we can like have these conversations in lieu of just like, oh, let's go watch a basketball game, or like, let's have this, did you see that thing that happened on Twitter? If we can have these intellectual or just more open conversations within our everyday dialogue, I think it'll make it easier for these safe spaces to just organically grow, because we'll be creating it amongst ourselves.
Right. And Shakira?
Well, I agree with everyone said before me. And the thing I picked up from what Colin said was empathetic. I think if men empathize with women, and not just, oh, what would that feel like if I was a woman? What would that feel like if I was in that situation? What would that feel like if that was me? If they can give a little bit more empathy, I think that could help create, a foundation for more safe spaces for women. And then action-wise, just being around women and choosing to protect them, choosing to watch out for them. I think about things like, if I'm on a train with a male friend and something should happen, I want to know that this male friend that I'm with is able to, one, because I would try and protect him as well, but I would want that he would want to try and protect me. It wouldn't be something he's just going to leave, something that he'll be right there with me. And not just as a male friend, but, any friend that I would have alongside me, that's something that I would want. I want somebody who's just going to go through it with me. So, to answer part one and part two.
Thank you. So more empathy, more listening, more accountability, less podcast mics and all that, but more talking with each other, not at each other. That's why I love this conversation that we're having. I feel like this is definitely the the tone that we want to set to see more progress in the future. Thank you all for such a beautiful, dynamic conversation. Again, shout out to the cast and filmmaker of One of the Guys. Again, check it out on No Budge if you haven't seen it yet. So yeah, I guess we'll open up questions to the audience. I believe you said it's on the far right.
Yeah, there's a triangle, square, circle icon on the far right. And if you click Q&A, you can add a question there. There's one question here from Nia
Stevens.
Yes, Lachelle, how do you go about building your production crew and what was important for you to see on set? So this was an extremely scrappy production. I didn't have nearly as much crew as I probably needed, honestly. I got really lucky that my partner is a DP, and he also acted as like production manager and gaffer and personal tissue to cry on at night. So I got really lucky in that regard. But really it came from very much just like talking to people in my community who were looking to, work on more films, get more like on-set experience. I think that's a big issue with a lot of Black creatives who are in film, is that like you might have a ton of like on-set PA experience, but you maybe want to be a producer or you want to be a wardrobe stylist. And so working on these indie projects can be really helpful in that way. Everyone who worked on this project did it as volunteer, which I'm very grateful for. So it was really important for me to make sure that people were taken care of on set. Obviously, directing, I wasn't able to oversee things as much as I would have liked to. But it was important to just have like people who really believed in the story, who really brought great energy to set. I feel like everyone who was there just had a really great attitude. I think that's just like baseline. And I'm saying baseline like I've made so many films, but I think that's just the tone that I would like to set for my production going forward. So yeah, people having a really great attitude, and also just like not having too much ego is really important. Like everyone's input was valuable. There are times where we're troubleshooting together and it's not like, oh, I'm responsible for this, so like I can't talk about that. I don't really, filmmaking is a collaborative process. It doesn't serve anybody to just be like, no, I own this and that's it. So that was important. And just having fun. Just having a good time. These guys, I have so much behind the scenes footage of y'all just being clowns, and I really love that. I have that from my own personal memories to cackle at. So yeah.
We have another question from Tunika. Hopefully I said that right. What was the process of writing One of the Guys, like practically and emotionally? How did you create an emotional space from which to write the script?
Hi, Tunika, who actually worked on One of the Guys as an audio op and a production coordinator. Good to see you in the chat. Writing the script was kind of a long process, mostly because I just didn't have any intention of making it. It was just something that I submitted to my writers group because I just wanted something new to workshop. So it was a lot of like leaving it for a while, coming back to it, leaving it, coming back to it. I really wanted to get the male characters right. I think that was really, really important for me because I didn't want, like Ahmad was saying earlier, I didn't want any like one-dimensional characters at all. And so it was a lot of workshopping and like with actual writers, but also talking to men about this. Like, I have the script, this is what happened, what do you think about that? And they're like, I've heard of stuff happening like that before, so it doesn't sound far-fetched to me. And that really kind of helped affirm where we were going. And then once I got to the process of actually getting into pre-production, I had to separate writer from director and then approach the script and how I was planning to build out the characters with the actor as more of like, as if I did not write the script, if that makes any sense at all. But so a lot of that includes again, relinquishing control and giving the actors the space to create the character in whatever way that they want. And then also just being honest about like what feels like it's not really working. I know there was that scene, that big blow up scene between the three of them after Mel discovers the photo. And I was talking with Colin and Shakira about like Isaiah's response. And I'm just like, he can't be that dumb to like not know that this happened. And like, I was feeling kind of unsure about it, but like having that conversation with them was really helpful because I think Colin ended up delivering a line that was like, what's going on with y'all two? And it was very simple and to the point, and it kind of conveyed like, he really doesn't know what's going on, you know? So the script is never finished. It's just never finished until the film is finished. So whatever the process is before you're filming, it's gonna continue to take shape as you're shooting it and then in post. So
that was a whole word, like you to quote that. Say it again, the script is never finished until
the film is finished.
That's real.
Yeah.
I think we just lost Ahmad again.
He's a phantom.
But I guess we can maybe like give it another minute, see if anyone has any more questions. We got the whole cast, well, not the whole cast, but most of the cast, and Lachelle here. So, oh, we have a hand raise.
Oh, if you have a hand raised, you got to drop your question in the Q&A.
There's like a little shapes icon in the far right, like a little triangle.
Come on, Alejandro, fucking up already.
Is it him that raised his hand?
Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
Chuck, aka Chuck.
Is he on set too? I want to
He played Deshaun's homie.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was really impressed by The Alchemist.
Okay, yes.
Yes.
Lyrics. Well, can he drop a question here or?
Alejandro, you want to text your question?
Or can we bring him up on the Nia? While we wait on Alejandro, let's get the next question. So this is a great one. I like this one. What's next for everyone? Does anyone have anything that they're working on, they're excited to share with the group? Or is it top secret?
Y'all can go first.
I'm in the lab. I'm just being a human right now. I've been traveling, trying to get human experiences again. My cup was empty last year, so I'm like spending these first few months just like refilling my cup creatively, doing lots of reading, traveling.
Where have you been? Where have you been going?
I just got back from Aruba last week. First solo trip. Highly recommend it to anyone that needs some sunlight because I know it's scarce out here in the Northeast. But no, it was beautiful. Highly recommend solo traveling as well to folks who are afraid of doing it. Just take that leap of faith. But yeah, I know things will come my way. The universe got my back, so I'm not pressed about what's next. I'm just trying to like fill the cup to be ready for it.
Yeah, you're making room for it, so it'll come with ease for sure.
Message.
Yes. Nice. Anyone else want to share?
Any directors who are hiring, yo, book us. We need the funds. We struggling.
Message.
Yes, hire them.
Yes, definitely. I have a film that I did last year, Chaos. We are in post-production, so I'm really excited about that. And we have an Indiegogo that's in my bio on Instagram. I want to donate if you can. I know it's, hard times for everybody. So, but that is the thing that I'm looking forward to. And I have a couple of projects that I'm excited to shoot in a couple months. So, really excited.
Don't worry, I got $1 or $2 for you, Shakira. I got y'all.
Dollar
couple
help,
dollars.
anything else. Yeah, listen, anything, everything.
Oh, actually, that's a great point though. Lachelle, should people just drop like their Instagrams and stuff in the chat? Everyone who's on the panel, so we can all like.
I'll also put it in the YouTube description when I upload this video too. But yeah, you can drop it in the chat as well.
Yeah, anything you want to share with everyone that's like watching and tuning in, so we can keep in touch and follow your journeys.
Yeah. What am I working on? I am towards the end of development for a short coming of age short script that I wrote called Baby, Baby, Baby. It is loosely based on when I was 8 and helped host my teenage sister's baby shower. So it's all told through the eyes of a child protagonist, which is going to be an interesting challenge for me, but I'm excited for that. And then I'm also developing a feature documentary about this neighborhood from my hometown called Rondo, which was a thriving, predominantly Black neighborhood until they built a highway through it, which is a story that we've heard throughout this entire country because was a segregation tactic from the 50s and 60s. And so what's interesting about Rondo now is that they are actually raising money to build a land bridge over that highway to reconnect the neighborhood. And on top of that land bridge is going to be like Black businesses. And so I'm really excited to tell that story. And I'm writing some more stuff, but I'm already doing too much. So
You got a lot on your plate, but those are all exciting. I can't wait to see how that comes together.
thank you.
Nice.
Yeah, I think I could speak for us all when I say we're all very eager to see what you're cooking up next. Like,
Yes.
you got a lot on your shoulders.
I know. I need a lot of money on my shoulders.
Well, yeah, that's actually a good question too. Like getting the funding and everything for one of the guys, because this was an amazing debut.
Right.
So how hopeful are you and optimistic are you for funding in the future?
The industry is in a weird spot right now, especially after the strikes. I think the entertainment industry is regressing a lot when it comes to centering Black and brown content.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not feeling like super optimistic, but I'm gonna figure out how to make this shit happen regardless. So
Oh yeah, definitely. And I think there's been like a huge shift too, to your point, from 2020. I think there's a lot of buzz around that and how the commitment started rolling back. But yeah, you're gonna make it happen either way, and we're supporting you and we're rooting for you.
thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate all of you.
Aw,
And we appreciate you more.
exactly. Period.
So sweet.
So I think, here's a question. Oh, he's promoting his art. Okay, everybody, Art Expo, what is it? April 4th to the 7th.
He's actually a
Congratulations,
super
Alejandro.
crazy talented artist though. So everybody should actually tune in because he's not drawing stick figures. I'll tell you that.
No,
They're actually quality.
he's the real deal.
Really, really good.
Check that out. We have his Instagram, so cool. All right, so I guess we can close out, or any last words, Lachelle?
This has been an incredible run the past year of trying to get this film out into the world. I could not have done it with a better cast, better crew, but honestly, the cast is my favorite. Minus Sanjay, obviously. So thank you guys so much for showing up and just giving so much heart to this story and just being awesome people. And I can't wait to work with you guys all again. Someone needs to give us money, like I said.
Yes.
We love you, Lachelle. And Bianca, thank you so much for hosting us. You were amazing.
Thank you guys. Y'all were amazing. You made this super easy. And I really enjoyed this conversation. And thank you for handling it again with so much care. Not only did you act out these roles, but y'all really unpacked them and reflected on them and contributed to this conversation in such a beautiful way. So I'm honored. So thank you guys so much.